All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going on a journey, but not across oceans or mountains. Nope, we're heading deep into the wild, uncharted territory of the human psyche. We're going to try to map the hidden forces that make us who we are, from our very first moments all the way to the edge of consciousness itself. Let's dive in.
You know the feeling, right? That crazy sense of déjà vu when you find yourself having the same argument again or falling into the same old pattern? Or maybe you see it in your kids when they act out in ways that just make zero logical sense. It's this universal puzzle, and today we're going to go looking for the clues.
So, where do we even begin to look for answers? Well, the first stop is usually the most obvious one, the behavior itself. This is where most of us start trying to fix things.
I mean, think about it. We try to use discipline or rewards or just sheer willpower to change what we're doing. But it feels like playing whack-a-mole, doesn't it? You push one thing down and something else just pops right up. And that kind of suggests that the action, the symptom, isn't the real problem. The real cause is buried somewhere deeper, out of sight.
And this quote just nails the first big mind shift. Dr. Shefali Tsabary, who's really known for her work on conscious parenting, basically says, we're looking in completely the wrong direction. The problem isn't what your kid is doing. It's that what they're doing is pushing a button on something deep and unhealed inside of you.
So, with that idea in mind, let's peel back the first layer of this whole mystery. We're going beyond the surface behavior and digging into our own personal history.
And here, you've got these two incredible thinkers who are really saying the same thing. On one hand, you have Dr. Gabor Maté, who shows us how even stress we don't remember from childhood can literally wire our adult brains for things like anxiety and addiction. And then Dr. Tsabary sees our children as these little mirrors, reflecting back the parts of us that still need healing. The big takeaway here, that huge reaction you had today, it might have almost nothing to do with what just happened and everything to do with something from 20, 30, maybe even 40 years ago.
Okay, that's a powerful explanation. It explains so much of our lives, but what if it's not the whole story? What if the actual blueprint for your entire life, how you experience struggle or freedom or feeling trapped, was laid down before you could even form a single conscious memory?
And this is where things get really wild. This brings us to the absolutely revolutionary work of psychiatrist Stanislav Grof. He came up with this theory that takes us all the way back to the single most dramatic event of our lives, the moment we were born.
So, after literally thousands of hours of research into these non-ordinary states of consciousness, Grof developed this concept. He called them the basic perinatal matrices. It sounds super technical, I know, but just think of it like this. The four-act drama of our birth gets imprinted on our psyche, and then we just keep replaying those four acts over and over for the rest of our lives.
Let's quickly walk through this four-act play. Act 1, cosmic unity. That's the bliss of the womb. Then bam, Act 2, no escape. The contractions start, and it's this feeling of being totally, hopelessly trapped. Act 3, the struggle. This is the fight for your life, pushing through the birth canal. And finally, Act 4, liberation. The moment of birth, freedom, that feeling of salvation. Grof says these four stages become the deep, emotional grooves of our lives.
So what does this actually mean? Well, according to Grof's theory, when you feel hopelessly stuck in a job you hate or a bad relationship, you might not just be dealing with the here and now. You could literally be re-experiencing the primal terror of that no-escape phase from your own birth, just echoing through time.
Now, I know, these are huge, profound, kind of philosophical ideas. But what does modern neuroscience say about all this? We need a bit of a reality check to keep this conversation grounded.
And here's where we hit a really fascinating debate. On one side, you have this philosophy of freedom from people like Grof and Tsabary. They believe our minds have this natural drive to heal, and our main job is just to create a safe space and get out of the way. But on the other side, you have the biology of development, from psychiatrists like Cyril Höschl. He's coming from pure neurobiology, and he'd argue that a child's brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, is just not developed enough for total freedom. It actually needs rules and structure from the outside to learn how to manage its own emotions.
And this really gets to the heart of the counter-argument. From a biological point of view, giving a kid complete freedom isn't a gift. It can actually be terrifying for them. Without the safe container that parents' boundaries provide, the world is just way too big and chaotic for their little developing brain to possibly handle.
So, okay, we've got these deep, hidden layers of trauma and programming. But how on earth did someone like Stanislav Grof even start to map them? I mean, really, how do you access a memory of your own birth?
Well, the story actually starts back in the 1950s. Grof was one of the leading researchers looking into the therapeutic uses of LSD. But then it was outlawed, and his primary tool for exploring the unconscious was gone. So what did he do? He and his wife invented a new key, holotropic breathwork. It's this incredible technique that uses nothing more than faster breathing and powerful music to let people access those same deep states of consciousness, totally legally and without any drugs.
And what's amazing is that decades before Grof was doing any of this research, art had already kind of figured it out. Get this, in 1915, Jack London wrote a novel about a prisoner in solitary confinement who, to escape this horrible torture, basically teaches himself to enter a state where his consciousness just leaves his body.
The prisoner in the book then starts to experience what he thinks are his past lives. It is a perfect fictional description of what Grof would later scientifically document and call transpersonal experiences, these moments where our consciousness seems to tap into information way beyond our own life story. It is a stunning example of art getting there way before the science did.
So we have these powerful keys, like breath work or other methods, that can unlock the unconscious and even dissolve the ego. But what actually happens when people use them? Well, it turns out the effect is not the same for everyone. Let's pull all these ideas together now. Think of it like this. An ego-dissolving experience is like a chemical catalyst. It doesn't create anything new. It just dramatically speeds up a reaction that was already waiting to happen. It doesn't put anything new into your head. It just reveals and turns up the volume on what's already there.
And you can really see this play out in two basic personality types. First, you've got the freedom seeker. Their core drive is openness. Their ego is pretty flexible. For them, an experience that dissolves boundaries is a beautiful confirmation. The idea that we are all one stops being an idea and becomes a real, felt experience. But then you've got the security seeker. Their motivation is all about control, order, and their ego is more rigid. For them, the exact same experience is a direct confrontation. It's like a battering ram against the very walls they've built to feel safe. So the big takeaway here is this. For the person whose whole identity is built on control, suddenly losing that control can either be a terrifying breakdown, what people call a bad trip, or, if they can somehow let go, it can be this moment of incredible, life-changing liberation from the prison of their own fear.
Ultimately, what this whole map of the psyche really shows us is that our inner world isn't just random chaos. It has a structure. It has a history, it has a story, and it's written in a language we can actually learn to understand. A story that begins way, way earlier than most of us think. So the only question left is, are you brave enough to open the book and read it?